Hey, welcome back to the Ripple Effect Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Harper. Today we are doing a solo episode. I have to apologize ahead of time. This is just me, myself, and I. I wanted to do this because I wanted to communicate a few things about where I am and where we're headed as a show. I have absolutely loved this experience. This has been really the last 2 years has really been just a huge growth for me in terms of my comfort level, meeting new people and engaging them through this platform. The interviews that I think we've had have been phenomenal. I think we've had some incredible guests. I don't say that to brag about me. I think I am definitely getting better at the interview piece. I think what I was trying to do early days was, be a little more prescriptive, a little bit more, I don't know, too polished potentially. And I'm not a polished, shiny kind of guy. I'm rough around the edges. I'm a little squidgy in certain sections. And I want to be able to bring out my own personality, and I want to be able to do it in a way that feels consistent and authentic to me. Because I think when I show up as an interviewer, especially for some of these guests who may have not spent any time with me or very little, I want them to feel comfortable. I want them to feel like they're having a conversation with an old friend. And I feel like over the last, I'll say for sure 2 years, but maybe a little bit longer, I've really leaned into that. Why am I saying this? Why am I sharing this in a solo episode? It isn't for me to pat myself on the back and say, woo, way to go, Steve. You're so much better at this whole podcasting thing than you were. Because that's true. Yeah, I mean, it is. Well, I mean, should I pat myself on the back? Maybe. I don't know. But I'm not going to do it here because that would just be weird. But I guess I wanted to publicly acknowledge just how lucky I am. I can't begin to tell you how many times a week I have speaker agents or booking people for podcast guests reaching out saying, hey, you're doing something. There is something significant happening with your podcast, and I would like to get, my clients on with you. I think my clients would benefit. I love that. I appreciate that. And I don't think they're just doing it because they need just a platform. I actually ended up talking to a guest recently who said, no, my agency's really discerning about who they target for my content. And so I knew when they suggested the Ripple Effect podcast, it was a solid one. And so then I went and checked out some of your episodes, and I was really impressed. I really loved your style. I loved the flow. I liked how it just felt like a conversation between friends. And this guy said, even though he knew that these guests were not necessarily friends, I made it feel like they were, right? And I told him, I said, that's my goal. I said, the risk that you take by coming on my show is that we will become friends. I will look for ways to help you. I will look for ways to support you. And he said, that's exactly why I'm anxious to do it and excited to be a guest. And I was just so grateful for that because, it was validation for me. Podcasting is hard. I mean, in theory, it's easy, right? You show up, push record. If you got a mic, hopefully a decent mic, maybe you're recording audio. There's a little bit of complexity there, but it's not, anybody could do this, right? I mean, you just pick up your phone, start talking into or, interviewing somebody and record it. But I think what many lack is that authenticity, right? I think it feels forced. It feels pushed. I was a guest on a couple of shows this year, and I could just tell the difference, right? Like, I am just a happy-go-lucky kind of guy. And the guests were, this is how we do it. This is the format. This is what you need to prepare. And I'm like, holy crap. I mean, this feels like a job just being your guest. And then when I showed up to do the interview, I was hoping maybe they would, chill out a little bit, relax. And it was worse. It was just bad. I think the interviews went great. I think that I pulled some personality out of them even during the conversation because that's the only way I know how to do it. When I think about how I network out there in the world, how I connect with, other people, my strength has always been doing it different and trying to find a alternate way to engage people. And I really lean into that and look at that as my genius, my strength, my superpower. And I think that the growth of this show, the attention we're getting, is maybe indicative of that. So when I look back and think about all that we've accomplished with this, I don't even know how many seasons we're in, but it's a long time. I feel really, really good about the work we've done. And I've been able to carry that forward in so many ways. Some of these guests, when I say, hey, sorry, you're stuck with me, we're going to be lifelong friends, I think they all kind of like, yeah, sure, we'll see. You're a host and you're being kind or considerate, but how many people follow up? And I had a guest that was on a year and a half ago, and I've stayed in contact. We don't like Zoom, or we don't live in the same town, but I've continued to support them and everything that they do out on social media. And I have been really, really quite a big supporter of them. And it doesn't take much, right? But this person and I got back on a conversation, not a conversation. We had a conversation on Zoom recently at their request. And they just said, I feel like you have been a giver since I met you. And I really have to apologize because I have not really done the same. And I said, you don't owe me an apology. You do not owe me a thing. I'm not looking for you to go out and promote the latest episode of the podcast. I'm not looking for you to try and pitch my book. I'm not even looking for you to tell your speaker agent that, this is a guy that you should be paying attention to. I wouldn't say no to that, of course, but I don't do it because I have some end game in mind. I do it because I've met somebody that really impresses me, someone that I really like, and I want to support them as best as I can, any way that I can. And so am I sitting there waiting with bated breath for you to drop an Instagram reel? No. Am I thinking strategically on a Sunday night, like, how can I get this person to like really pay attention to me because I am like promoting their stuff? No, I'm not that devious. I'm not. I just am not. And I was thinking about this conversation a lot. And the reason I'm sharing it with you, because it ties into a conversation I had yesterday, where the word authenticity got brought up in both conversations. And this one person I was on with the Zoom, who I just love and adore, I don't want to embarrass them because I don't want them to think that I used our Zoom conversation for fodder. I've actually had several of these conversations. So a few of you out there that might be listening to this, you're like, hey, well, I was on a Zoom with you, Steve. That was probably me. Could have been, but it might not have been. I'm just sharing. I feel like there's an intimacy that's being created with me and my guests that expands beyond just the initial interview. And in the case of this one particular person that I'm talking about, and then I'll talk about yesterday's conversation, there was a real sense of gratitude and appreciation and a little bit of guilt because they hadn't done much by way of supporting our episode. They hadn't done much by way of, really being proactive in outreach. And yet I've been continuing to show up. And when she asked me this question, she said, I feel really bad about that, and she didn't ask me the question. She made the statement. I feel really bad about that. I feel guilty because you're such a good guy and you're doing it. And I was like, I don't do that because I'm trying to impress you. I don't do it because I'm trying to get, score points with you or get you to be like, oh man, yeah, I should be doing what this guy's doing. No, I do it because we rippled together. We had a connection. And just like, the person I meet at Starbucks, that feels like a random stranger, that I have a way to apply some bit of wisdom or some form of strategy or help them in some way, shape, or form. I'm going to do it. And I'm not going to think twice about it. Nor am I going to keep score. Nor am I going to worry about, it's a quid pro quo thing. It's not that way. And I feel like there's a lot of mistrust in that behavior that is maybe hard to overcome. And it's been really interesting because I see it in networking situations or in business relationships. And there's obviously a natural tendency for people to kind of look at you through a lens and, kind of see what's the angle here. But in this environment where this person and I have probably never met physically, we've never, had an opportunity to go have a cup of coffee or to have an exchange, but we've had this really intimate experience where this conversation has been recorded, and it's like a little time capsule, or a little snapshot of time that we can put into the time capsule. I need more coffee, clearly. Whew. Oh my God, it's still hot. I forgot. I'm using my Ember cup that was given to me by my son, Zach. Thank you, Zach. It was a Christmas gift. Great gift. He knows how I like my piping hot coffee. But now that I've scalded my lip, I wonder if I'm going to look deformed like Two-Face from the Batman series. Anyway, I find it really interesting because I've been able to kind of put this into its own micro lab and see how things have evolved with these guests who, again, we've never met in person, right? And so when I want to support them and I want to say good things about them and help them any way that I can, it's really funny to see the response, right? And also the loyalty that gets built really quickly and how strong some of these friendships have become. Fast forward to yesterday, which would technically, because I'm talking about it today, be a rewind to yesterday. But I was in a conversation with another person who was asking me a question specifically about my strategy for the podcast. And, we were talking about what kind of preparation he puts in for his show, what kind of preparation I put into mine. And he's like, man, I've got all these notes. I put, I'm doing copious amounts of research. And it's not that I show up unprepared, like, okay, just tell me who you are, right? I do know who I'm interviewing. There's a reason that I'm putting them on the show, but I don't spend a lot of time like, I don't do a pre-interview. I don't tell people here are the questions ahead of time. I want the conversation to evolve naturally because at the end of the day, I want it to feel like we were having a cup of coffee. We might be, completely on opposite ends of the country or the world, but I want them to be like, man, that is a guy, if I ever make it to Austin or he ever makes it to my town, that is somebody I want to prioritize getting to know. That's someone that I want to spend some time with. And I can do that. I can create that in a audio environment. I can do that in a 2D world, recording this and putting it on YouTube or Facebook or Substack, wherever the hell we're putting it today. And that's my only goal. And I guess when he was saying, how did you get so comfortable doing it? And it was funny because I really hadn't contemplated it too much. I've recognized my growth and my strength in where this show has gone, but I really hadn't put a whole lot of thought into that. And then I really thought about it for a second. I said, it's just like what we're doing right now, right? We're getting together and we're exchanging ideas and figuring out ways that we can support one another. And I showed up with a genuine interest to be of service to you. And I believe you're offering to do the same. And I just extend that, right? I extend what I would do in real life with these people into an interview format as best as I can. And then I just try to be as consistent and committed to following up and living my truth with them as best I can. And he was just like, I just think your show comes across as very authentic and really, I'm intrigued because you seem to pull a lot out of your guests. And I really appreciated that. Just made me feel really good. I was so grateful that the comment got made and that this person is looking at my podcast as kind of a blueprint for how they want their podcast. I just have a lot of good energy happening and a lot of good things happening because of this show. But I told this guy, I said, I just try not to overthink what I'm going to do, what I'm going to say. And I try and show up and just have a good, fun, authentic conversation and see where things actually go from here. And I love the fact that I think hit a higher gear with this show in that, the quality of guests that are actually asking to come on as opposed to me trying to chase people, be like, hey, would you come on my little podcast, my little show? I had somebody ask me also this week, what do your numbers look like? And I'm like, I don't track that. And the guy's like, why don't you track that? Because he was asking if I monetize the show yet. And I said, no, I haven't quite figured that out, right? Maybe down the road I will, but my priority right now is just delivering great content and bringing great guests and creating something that anybody in my audience can learn something from. I think to be a great rippler, to be honest with you, is to be someone that has a natural curiosity about people's origin stories and can be inspired by what they've accomplished or what they've done. And they have a genuine interest in engaging with that person. And for me, that has been sort of the mandate for the show, full stop. Ever since I started deciding to do interviews, which, to be fair, scared the crap out of me. I didn't feel like I could transition. And I guess one point to cover that I mentioned earlier was I started back in the day. I felt like I was robotic and sort of conversations were a little forced. And I don't know what it was that switched it, but I think that now I just have this comfort level in doing what I do. I have a belief and strength in myself, just like showing up for a keynote, that I am going to be given, the wisdom and the words from on high to make the very best of that experience that I can. And I have a lot of confidence in what I do and how I do it. And that to me has been really a super big growth moment for me, because there's just things that you feel destined to do. And this is right now what I feel destined to do. I feel like it's my calling. I feel like I've got some skills and ability to do it. And I feel like when we start pushing record, it just clicks. And I think in a way that not a lot of things in my life right now are clicking. This has become kind of my home base. And I think as I look at where I want to go with, my brand and my companies, and I even made a video about this week that'll be out on my YouTube channel, but I kind of feel like I'm shedding my skin a little bit. I'm kind of, I'm ready for something else. I'm ready for something bigger. I'm ready for something more. And I feel like this actually has been my launch pad. This environment, you paying attention to anything I have to say through this medium, whether you're watching on YouTube or whether you're listening through the podcast platforms, I have a sincere debt of gratitude to you as my listener and my audience, because you guys have given me the strength of confidence. You have helped me lean into skills and abilities that I've always had, but wasn't quite sure how to apply. And I have met some just freaking amazing people along the way. And for that, I am blessed. I'm eternally grateful. And the appreciation is just, it's just exploding from my heart for what I do. So all the way back to what I said, I was not doing this episode to be like, hey, look how great I am. No, it's not that. I can be humble in a lot of ways. And I can also be kind of an arrogant jerk in some others. This is kind of like in between, right? I'm proud, I'm excited, and I feel like, this is significant. This show has meaning and has purpose. And then I also recognize just how freaking lucky I am to be able to do what I do and to have the luxury of it. And as I look towards what comes next and where I want to go and how I want to evolve, both personally and professionally, I feel like I have a little bit of a North Star with this show and the amazing guests that I get exposed to. I have created some incredible relationships because of this show. And I have a defined purpose. And I think that is one of the things when you've got that home base, right? Or that North Star, however you want to frame it, it allows you to take these little venture trips out into other arenas, other hemispheres, other solar systems, whatever you want to call it. But you always can come home, and you always have the foundation, right? You always have that place where you know that you can be safe and secure, and people will be welcoming and will honor you for who you are and what you're doing. And those that want to follow you out into adventures unknown, to try new things, new books, new writing, new ways to explore the conversation about, what I'm doing in terms of Ripple or entrepreneurship, leadership, whatever, they'll be there with you. And they'll go on that journey with you because they trust you. They've seen it, and they're willing to give other things a shot because you didn't let them down over here. And that, I think, is building a quiet confidence for me to want to do something else, something bigger, something more. Do I know what that is yet? No. But I feel like it's percolating. It's like boop, 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 boop. It's like the old Mr. Coffee pots, right? Boop, 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 boop. And then before you know it, it's like your coffee is ready. The idea is here. Now go execute on it. But don't forget where you came from. Don't forget where home base is and what's safe. So I just felt like this is what was on my heart today. This is what I wanted to share. I had some it feels like I needed to have this conversation with you as my audience because I'm having so many conversations about the show that I'm not actually bringing up. Other people are. And that just makes me so proud and so happy. And I would not be here without you. And so I just want to say thank you. I appreciate it. If anybody out there has ideas on, what it takes to get, this audience even bigger, I'm open to it. I'm open to having those conversations. If you have ideas on, companies that might be interested in creating some sort of financial partnership to advertise with us, I am happy to do that. I'm happy to explore that, provided it is not anything that's crazy that goes against my brand or my values. But I'm open to talking. If you have ideas on what topics you want me to cover as we look towards the new year, both as a solo episode kind of recording or interview or subject matter experts that you think I should be interviewing, I am open to any and all ideas. In fact, from an audience member, I'm going to listen to you guys far more than I'm going to a booking agent. No offense, booking agents. I love you guys. You guys are all very nice and kind, but my peeps are my peeps. All right. My ripplers are my ripplers. And, if this show moves you in any way, if I happen to, just pull one heartstring or one thought process or spark an idea or motivate you in any way, maybe do me one favor. All I'm asking for is you to toss one stone in your pond and see where those ripples might go when you communicate, hey, you should follow this guy. You should listen to this show. You should hit him up to be on the show or whatever. But I would just appreciate one positive action that you might take on behalf or in support of me or the show. I would not even begin to know where to thank you for that. But if I had an ask, that would be it. So I'm going to just wrap this up by saying thank you. I'm eternally grateful for everything that this show has opened up for me in terms of possibilities, new connections, new friendships. And I am going to continue to bring my A game and show up for you every single time. And I expect you to hold me accountable because if you feel like I ever call it in, I want you to call me on that crap. But I don't think I will because I love what I do. And I love the fact that you're here listening to me and giving me your time and your attention. So I do not take that for granted. So you guys have an amazing, whatever, I don't know when you're listening to this, morning, noon, night. I've had people tell me that this is a really good podcast to put someone to sleep. So there you go. I think they're just talking about the solo episodes. I just want to make sure my guests know that, everybody's fired up. They got pen in hand. They're taking those notes. They're leveraging those knowledge nuggets. I think it's usually when it's just Steve talking. He could put an elephant to sleep. I think. I don't know. Anyway, thank you. Go out there, make a difference in the world. Go create some positive ripples for yourself and for others. Take care. Be kind to one another. God, we need that right now. And see you in the next episode. Ripple on.